Today's meeting will be recorded. The recording and meeting presentation will be posted to the Vision Zero website, along with all other Vision Zero related materials, including meeting minutes and upcoming meeting schedules. All panelists will be responsible to mute themselves until they speak. Due to FOIA and public access laws, please refrain from using the chat feature for anything other than our ability to coordinate or help speakers who need assistance using Zoom. The question and answer field at the bottom of the participant pane will be used for public comment. Please refrain from entering public comments into the Q&A field until the portion of the meeting takes place. Public comment will take place at the end of the meeting, and participants may raise their virtual hand to signify a desire to speak and wait to be recognized. To do so, you can open the participant pane and click raise hand at the bottom of the panel. Participants may also utilize the question and answer field at the bottom of the participant pane. In-person comments will be prioritized ahead of those entered into the Q&A field. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Connecticut DOT Deputy Commissioner Leisha King.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Leisha King. I'm here in place of the commissioner who is on a much well-deserved vacation this week overseas. So I agreed to step in and run the meeting for him today. So let's just start off by going through the agenda so that we know what we have up for us today. So depending on whether we have a quorum, we're going to keep an eye on that. We'll start with adopting the minutes. We may have to push that to the end or to the next meeting. So maybe doing the minutes first. Then we're going to be hearing from two staffers at DOT, Phil Monero, who is our legislative director, and Liz Keys, who oversees our legal and regulatory affairs, to give us an update on what happened during the legislative session. We're going to go a little bit more in depth into ISA and Senate Bill 1377. Liz will do that. Then we're going to take a moment to do a spotlight on some local Vision Zero efforts. And then Aaron will give us a nice summary of what the subcommittees have been working on. And then what we have coming up as next steps. We'll end with public comment. I think Aaron may have said this, but I do just want to remind folks that until we get to the public comment section of the agenda, only committee members can ask questions and comment. So if you're a member of the public, please hold your comments and thoughts until we get to the public comment section. Okay, so Aaron, how are we doing on a quorum?
We are good. We have a quorum.
Great. So do I hear a motion to adopt the minutes from the March 13th meeting?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
So moved.
Do we have any comments, corrections, or edits? Hearing none, I'd entertain a vote to adopt the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? I will abstain since I was not at the March meeting. Okay, we can move on. All right, now I'd like to introduce Phil Monero, our legislative director, to give us a summary of what happened during the legislative session. Phil?
Thanks, Leisha. Good morning, everyone. So as mentioned, I'm Phil Monero. I'm the legislative director for ConnDOT. It was a very busy legislative session. I think this was one of the highest number of proposed bills ever. The stats I have was there was 4,064 proposed bills that got whittled all the way down to 205 bills in total passing both chambers. ConnDOT was actively tracking about 500 of those bills, and it got whittled down really to about 3 or 4 at the end that we're actively really involved with. And of those, I'll be going through a couple of them today that have some road safety and sort of Vision Zero interested tweaks. So the first one is our agency bill, which was Senate Bill 1377, an act concerning recommendations to the Department of Transportation. There were various sections. The majority of the agency package, I'd say probably somewhere about 85 to 90% of our proposals were adopted thanks to our work with the chairs and ranking members of the Transportation Committee. Senator Cohen might be on here today. I'm not sure. But as always, we thank our legislative partners for everything they were able to do and get accomplished working with us this year. There were a couple sections. First, section 4, increased crosswalk distances in total, usually somewhere from 20 to 25 feet or 25 feet to 30 feet. The idea was to give some more sight lines and bring the state laws into compliance with some new federal manuals. So we extended by about 5 feet, giving a little more sight line for crosswalks, stop signs, and other sort of traffic signals before the first parking space for a vehicle can be located. We also increased the fines for violating the crosswalk. If a vehicle proceeds through a crosswalk while a person is either in or signaling an intent to cross using that crosswalk, we raised, I think, by about $250. Oh, sorry, I'm just, Aaron, I just see, I think the chair, House Chair Amy Berger-Travallo has also joined us, sent a little message. But we also increased the fines from $500 to, I believe, $750 for violators of those crosswalk lines. We did some updating in sections 15 and 66 of the bill. There used to be special crosswalks, for lack of a better term, especially for, I believe, school zones and elderly. Those special crosswalks are now more or less standard crosswalks, and so we cleaned up the statutes a little bit because there's no need for a special crosswalk when every crosswalk, or more or less every crosswalk, is that special design. Sections 19 and 20 were helmet sections that I believe came from the Vision Zero, one of the subcommittees over the years. So the first part was a repeating proposal from the department to increase the age requirements for motorcycle riders. It's been very contentious over the years. This past proposal was raising the minimum age required from 18 to 21. So all riders of a motorcycle will have to wear their helmet until they, are older than 21 years of age or reach 21 years of age. That's been a proposal that's been around for at least a decade. It passed this year, so very happy to see that. Similarly, Section 20 increased the mandatory age from a helmet for regular bicycles, e-bikes, skateboards, rollerblades, and all those sort of different non-motorized transportation. It raised it from 16 to 18. So some great progress there, finally getting helmet laws moved through. Section 22, which I believe Liz Keys will be talking about a little more in depth, requires Vision Zero Counsel and Chief State's Attorney to investigate intelligent speed assistant devices, which I think are more commonly known as governors or engine governors, kind of that little device, golf cart or a go-kart or smaller motors, lawn tractors and such. But I will defer that to Chief Keys. I think she's going to be going through it in depth. Section 23 of the DOT bill had operators retraining for reckless driving violators. That's a current sort of education module offered by the state, and this tweak will make it so that anyone convicted of reckless driving will need to attend and successfully complete this operator retraining. So some good work there moving forward using education, as a deterrent and as a tool, just educating in general. Sections 29 through 30 are automated enforcement. It requires the DOT commissioner to develop a plan to expand speed camera usage on state roads. It also has a tweak in our existing speed and red light camera program for municipalities. And we are allowing vendors to receive some fine revenue for reimbursement, I think, of some of their costs operationally. There's also a tweak, I believe, in the DOT bill. I'm sorry, I don't have the section number in front of me, where it increases the amount of work zone camera programs that the Department of Transportation is able to have active at one time. We were limited to 15 originally when the pilot program became a full program, and now we are unlimited, so to speak. So only limited by operational logistics and some other technical limitations. The other bill that contains some very important road safety provisions is the DMV bill. So I'll actually leave the majority of it to Jim Pilates. I think he might be on here today, or another DMV representative, but very important for the department. One of our key proposals was a highway work zone and roadside vehicle safety awareness course. This was based after a program that was recently adopted, I believe 2 years ago now, in Oklahoma. They were the first in the country, and Connecticut's now hopefully will be the second to have one of these up and running. It's a special training module that all people who get all new license applicants will be taken alongside their other kind of training existing modules. This is focused specifically though on highway safeties in our work zones and on roadside vehicles, those being police vehicles, DOT vehicles doing road work, towing vehicles, broken down vehicles, just anything on the side of the road. Because of the losses the department and Connecticut State Police experienced the past year, we really wanted to focus on this specific area that is so dangerous on our roads. So we put in a proposal for this education module. It's adopted for everyone who is applying for a license, but also importantly, anyone who violates 14-212D and 14, I think it's 283B, which is our slow down, move over, and our endangerment of highway worker statutes. Violators of those statutes will have to retake this course if they're convicted of those violations. So it's, again, an idea to use education to get people to think a little more while they're driving, but also as, a deterrent effect. We're very pleased that this was able to go through. It was one of the department's top priorities. So happy to see it moving into place in law. Also in the DMV bill, sections, I think 64 and 65, increase the fines, the maximum fines for violations of slow down, move over, and endangerment of a highway worker when the violations result in either an injury or a death. So we increased those fines, I think, in general to about $5,000 if the violation results in an injury, or $10,000 to $20,000, which is, I believe, the general highest fine in statutes if your violation results in the death of an operator or a occupant of a vehicle, or a highway worker. So very pleased to see those sections passed. They were in our original proposal, and it was very strong focus on road safety this year. So we're happy that those came through from the Transportation Committee. The last bill I just want to note is House Bill 7132. I think it's now Public Act 2519, which was actually from the Judiciary Committee, was an act concerning non-safety related traffic stops, driving while consuming cannabis, and excessive reckless driving. So 3 pieces in there that are, I'd say, important. The first was that it allowed, there were some movement secession on enforcement of proper operating vehicle in terms of headlights, mirrors, license plates. And while there was not a ton of that focused on pure safety minded, there was a lot focused on, I'd say, criminal justice and enforcement in that area was more the philosophy of the session. We were able to keep the provision where a police officer can still pull you over if you don't have 2 working headlights. But however, instead of receiving an infraction for the first offense, you will now receive a warning for failure to have 2 working headlights. But police officers can obviously still interact with you, which is, I think, beneficial. Obviously we want everybody to be noted if all of their safety lights and devices aren't working. So glad to see that was not totally removed this session. Another part of the bill sets a new penalty for reckless driving. If you are driving over 100 miles an hour or over the 85 mile an hour limit currently in statute for reckless driving, up to 100 miles an hour, there is now a fine where the first offense is $200 to $600 and up to 30 days imprisonment, or both. Subsequent offenses have up to $1,000 fine or 364 days imprisonment, or both. So it raises the fine amounts for sort of this higher level of speeding that we've seen on the roads. I'm sure everybody's seen either a social media post or a news article, unfortunately, in the past couple of weeks about someone being pulled over, driving 100 on the Berlin Turnpike, or 130 on I-84, unfortunately. So some work on specifically targeting those kind of high speed offenders. And one of the last tweaks of the bill allows for expanded enforcement for marijuana usage by vehicle operators. This now would allow a officer to stop a driver if the officer sees the operator of the vehicle actively consuming cannabis, and I believe the requirement is that they smell burnt or used cannabis. So some good enforcement there, kind of trying to close a loophole that existed with the original marijuana legalization laws. And that is my quick little wrap up of our safety-minded bills from this legislative session.
Thank you so much, Phil. So if there are any other council members who would like to give an update on legislation that may have affected your agency or organization, or want to give any or have any comments about what Phil talked about, please raise your hand. Aaron, I don't know if you have a different
Yep,
view than
Jim,
I do.
that's,
I don't,
yeah,
I
Jim, you
can't
can go ahead. Yep, I see Jim
Yeah.
from DMV is here.
Oh,
Yep.
thanks. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Alicia. I appreciate it. Hey,
Sure.
Phil's, as far as from DMV space, Phil's overview of provisions was very thorough. I don't have anything to add. I would add just that there was one other piece of the DMV bill that was included, which established a link between operating under the influence of boats and motor vehicles, whereas those are really two separate and parallel parallel regimes right now. It does establish a link between violations between the two programs that the DMV and DEEP are going to be working towards with a October 1 effective date. So just wanted to mention that as well as a new provision that was passed this year.
Great. Thanks, Jim.
Sure.
Now I can see, anybody else have any comments or updates? Okay, any questions? Okay, well then now I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth Keys. Liz is going to give us a update on Public Act 25-65, which is the law that was passed that is directing DOT and the Chief State's Attorney's Office to study the use of intelligent speed assistance devices. So Liz? Oh, you're muted, Liz.
There we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. My name's, as Leisha indicated, I'm Liz Keys. I'm the Chief of Legal and Regulatory Affairs here at CTDOT, and wanted to give everyone a quick overview of Section 22 of Public Act 2565, which does require the Vision Zero Council and the Chief State's Attorney to jointly study and make recommendations concerning the feasibility of leveraging intelligent speed assistance devices to address speeding and reckless driving. So the bill defines intelligent speed assistance device as a device designed to be installed within a motor vehicle to actively monitor and limit the speed at which a motor vehicle is capable of traveling based on the applicable speed limit where such motor vehicle is being operated. And the study is required to, at a minimum, examine whether there is sufficient evidence to show that the use of these devices change driving behavior. It's required to consider the different types and availability of such devices. It must estimate the costs associated with the installation and maintenance of these devices, both to the operator and to the state of Connecticut. It must examine whether such devices work accurately and reliably in unsupervised environments, and whether they can produce evidence showing that they have not been bypassed, circumvented, or tampered with. And if the council is going to recommend the use of such devices in the state, it should also make recommendations as to how their use would fit into an enforcement framework. In other words, would these be in lieu of a monetary penalty, probation, license suspension? Would it be mandatory or discretionary? How many violations and what types of violations would have to occur before this device would be installed? Would it, what age groups, what type of driving history would be factored in, et cetera. So this is a report that the council, as I indicated, is charged with doing in cooperation with the chief state's attorney. It's the report and any recommended legislative language are due to the Transportation Committee on January 15th, 2026. So we have just under 7 months to do this. I am going to be the point person for Commissioner Euclid on this. And the Office of the Chief State's Attorney has designated Deputy Chief State's Attorney Lisa D'Angelo, as well as Nancy Chupak, who you all know is a member of this council. She's the traffic safety resource prosecutor. So we're going to be working with them. And we are also at this juncture looking for any, volunteers. And I can kind of throw it over to Aaron to kind of maybe do the official call up for volunteers, but that's really what we're looking for, because this is a big project, but it's an exciting project. And, we're looking for folks to get involved. So that's where we are with this particular section of the Public Act.
Sure. Thanks, Liz. We're kind of on that discussion and next steps bullet here now. And I certainly, I'll defer to any council members who want to comment on this. I think we probably should comment on this just based on the fact that it's charged to the council. It's something, like you said, we have to get done in about the next 7 months. But I would hop on before we get there just to say that I did speak to Council Chair Commissioner Euclid about this a little bit prior to the meeting. Like he indicated, he is certainly looking for volunteers for agencies on the council and potentially other agencies that could play a role within this study too, right? This council is not exhaustive in terms of who's here that may be impacted or could contribute to this study and what ISA could look like for Connecticut in the future based on whatever these recommendations are. It sounds like probably, this discussion can be had here today, but also I think probably a logical next step or that he indicated would be convening council members together to come up with kind of a scope as to what a study and any potential recommendations might look like. And then once that scope is created, kind of move from there and then update the council and everyone else at the next meeting with whatever progress has been made. So I think that's kind of where we are and loosely where we're going. But I turn it back to Deputy Commissioner King and the council for any discussion, any input, whatever folks have.
Well, if anybody has any comments or would like to have further discussion about this now, we can certainly do so. If not, we'd ask that folks reach out to Aaron to let them know if you'd be interested in being on a subcommittee to kind of get to work on this. It would be an ad hoc committee that would just be in existence until we get to January and get a report out there. So does anybody have anything that they want to comment on or discuss? Okay, well, I just remind you, please reach out to Aaron if you're interested in participating. We really could use some help. Oh, Susan.
Yeah, that's okay. So I work at the Department of Public Health Injury Violence Surveillance Unit, and I think that this particular subcommittee would be very, I think I would love to volunteer for it since it does have public health ramifications. So definitely include me as part of this committee. Thank you.
Fantastic, thanks. Anyone else? Thought I saw one more hand up. Terry?
Good morning. I would also, as being the chair of the enforcement subcommittee, I would be willing to also work with the working group on the ISA.
Great, thank you. Okay, seeing no more hands, I think we can move on to the next section. Aaron is going to walk us through the Vision Zero local spotlight.
Thank you. Yep, so we've done these, a couple of these before, these Vision Zero local spotlights. When we talk about this, I always bring up that Connecticut's a little bit unique in that we have this Vision Zero Council that exists at this statewide interagency policy level where this council makes recommendations to our legislature. The model for many for Vision Zero in many places is it's more of a local or municipal model, or even at the COG level. And we've had presentations so far from municipalities who are implementing Vision Zero in their communities. But we know that there is some Vision Zero activity happening at our COG level. And today we wanted to hear about that. So with that, I'm going to introduce Richard Donovan, who is a Transportation Planning Director at the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments. Rich?
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you all for giving us the chance to talk today. Yeah, so like Aaron said, right, most of the Vision Zero efforts across the country are really being led at that local level, and what we hear most about here in Connecticut is at that local level. But we know there's a lot of room for intermunicipal collaboration, and certainly here at the COG level, right, this gives us the ability to take more of a regional approach. And as we'll talk about in a little bit here too, right? Not just the COGs, but as the MPOs for the state, we have the chance there as well. So just to start out, you'll see this is titled Envision Zero. That is not a typo, no matter how many times my computer tells me it is. It is our campaign across the region. And so, Aaron, if you'd like to go to the next slide. So just very briefly, in case anybody does not know who we are, Connecticut is divided up into 9 councils of governments. We have taken the role of county equivalents in recent years. And so while we don't have political counties, we still have the old, geographic county boundaries. The 9 COGs are now the boundaries being used for pretty much anything that would be divided up on a county level elsewhere in the country. We are technically a voluntary association of our member communities. The current COG boundaries were all formed in 2015 by the merger of some of the previous planning regions. So we went from 15 down to the 9 regions that exist today. And we're all made up, our decisions are all made by the board of our municipal CEOs. And so in addition to being the state designated regional planning organization where we focus on some of the environmental work, land use, and addressing some of the state issues, we are also federally designated as the metropolitan planning organizations. We have a very weird setup here in NVCOG. We are 1.5 MPOs. So the 15 northern towns in our region make up the Central Naugatuck Valley MPO, and the 4 lower Naugatuck Valley towns of Ansonia, Derby, Seymour, and Shelton are part of the Greater Bridgeport and Valley MPO, which we co-host with the Connecticut Metro COG. And if you'd like to go one more, Aaron. So just some background on how we got here. In September of 2022, our board, the full NVCOG board of all 19 communities, voted to adopt a regional Vision Zero target. And that for us was to eliminate all fatalities and serious injuries in our region by 2060. We know that as a region, we have a lot of work to do on this, and covering multiple municipalities and multiple different political subdivisions. It was going to take us a little bit longer, I think, than certainly than the states, than many of the municipal goals, and I think what we would like to see. We are aiming to achieve that as quickly as we can, but also being realistic about what it takes to do this across a 19-town region. One of the challenges we face, right, in a municipality, it's easy for all of the different stakeholders to be in a room together and on board. As a region, we have a much harder time with that. And so to get our chief elected officials to unanimously support bringing in the different departments within a town that work toward this goal, that make this goal possible, was really significant. And it has proven to be, at times challenging, but certainly has brought a lot of value. And as we'll talk about as we go through what we've been actually achieving here, what we've been working on toward Vision Zero, one of the most important things we get out of this is this intermunicipal collaboration. We really serve as a forum for our members to talk about the issues that they face. And when it comes to roadway safety, that gives us a lot of opportunity to share ideas and to share strategies and to experiment a bit more than a single town may be able to. If you can go to the next one. So just some of what we're doing. You know, we as an entity now have really centered roadway safety and Vision Zero on everything that we do. And so as a multidisciplinary agency, that's given us a lot of opportunity to look at this, not just from a roadway specific aspect, but in everything that we do, including in our environmental planning work, in our community planning work, and in the technical assistance we provide to the towns. And you know, you'll see as we go through here, right, that it looks at a number of ways that we can help our towns get there, rather than just rather than just a single town working together, right? We're able to take all of the things that we are designed to do, which includes multi-town planning and full regional planning. As the MPO, we are responsible for performance management, setting and maintaining progress towards those targets. And so we're able to use that in our favor here, as well as offer a degree of technical assistance that many of our towns are unable to achieve on their own. We have a dedicated staff who is not tied up in the daily operations of running a town. And we know that is that it takes a lot of resources that, because we don't have to dedicate our time and our staff to, we're able to focus in more on some of these broader and loftier goals, like achieving 0 fatalities and serious injuries. Next slide. So focusing in first on this multi-town planning, we know that roadway safety issues and traffic safety issues don't end at a town line or don't end at any political boundary. And this is true not just on state roads. We know state roads carry the majority of intermunicipal traffic, but locally owned roads also cross town lines, and locally owned roads have the same problems on both sides of that town line. And so for us to look at it from a regional perspective, we're able to better identify the full corridors that present the safety issues, that are the ones that are most likely to yield a serious injury or a fatality, rather than just looking at individual pieces. And in doing so, we're able to prioritize in a different way than a single town may be able to. Obviously, we do this in close collaboration with our towns so that they're able to implement projects that make sense for them and that address their primary concerns, but it gives us the ability as well to partner their work with those of neighboring towns. We are in the process right now of developing a full regional Vision Zero action plan as an update to this regional transportation safety plan, which we are looking forward to implementing across the 19-town region. Again, based on the full regional data and not just individual municipalities and hotspots. If you'll go to the next one. Here's where our role as an MPO really helps us take this to the next level, right? We as an MPO are required to either endorse the statewide transportation safety targets, which we have done every year up to this point, or to set our own. And so every year in collaboration with DOT, we have been reviewing and endorsing those statewide targets. This year, for the first time, we went through the process to set our own, to see what those numbers would look like. We did encourage our board to endorse the statewide target, which they did this year. But in doing so, we helped to break out what our region's performance looks like compared to the statewide performance. And one of the things that unfortunately we see is that our fatal and serious injury rates are higher than the statewide, both the actual and the targets. And so going forward, we will be starting to set our own targets on these, and we plan to incorporate the target of 0 into this process, so that over the course of the next 35 years, we work our way down from our current performance rate down to that 0 number. So notably, right, this is not intended to be a rejection of the department's target setting or a challenge to their methodology. We actually have used the same methodology that they use to do so. We just find it's helpful for us to see our regional performance compared to the statewide number. We've been in talks with some of the other MPOs about the process we used for this, which is the same process that the department has been using. And at the encouragement of the Federal Highway Administration, we are looking at, certainly using the same methodology for the Greater Bridgeport and Valley MPO, as well as some of the others across the state. What this allows us to do, though, it forces us to report on our progress in a bit of a different way than the state does, because we have to look just at our region. We know that in our region, VMT is a little bit lower than the statewide average, certainly on a per person basis. And so these rates being higher is really concerning for us and gives us it gives us something to work off of, as well as some little extra inspiration for our municipal leaders as they adopt these targets. Next slide. And so the second piece of this is reporting. As an MPO, we are required to report out our progress towards these performance targets. And in endorsing the statewide target, we have always followed the statewide reporting on that performance management. And so by endorsing our own targets and being forced to do our own reporting against those targets, we'll have a bit more information in front of our municipal leaders, which we know is how they make their decisions. It's how they prioritize both our regional projects and their individual municipal projects. And so having this progress report come out every other year has given them the extra information that they need as they're making their decisions. The other thing that these progress reports have started to do is show the actual work that's being done. We know that it's easy to look at the problem and see the problem. We want to make sure that we're seeing the opportunity that comes with it as well, that we're highlighting the work that our municipalities are doing, that we're highlighting the work that we as a region are doing. And so it gives us not only the list of everything that is being done, how we intend for it to address the total safety performance of the region, but also lets us go back and measure the actual impact of these individual projects. Something that is encouraged by the Federal Highway Administration, something we've wanted to be doing for a long time, but we now have the resources and the ability with these reports to look back, especially at those regional and those municipal projects, and highlight the actual impact that they have had. And by doing this report frequently, right now we're doing it on a biannual basis. We're hoping to move to an annual basis going forward. It lets us monitor that those corridors that we've identified as those that are most likely to yield a serious injury or fatality continue to be, and that we're prioritizing our projects on those and adjusting as behaviors change, as travel patterns change, and as these projects start to make an impact on safety across the region. Next slide. So like I said, one of the benefits here is that we are able to provide technical assistance kind of across a range of disciplines, rather than just, rather than siloed by department. We know that many of the larger towns and cities across the state are able to do this pretty well, but many of the smaller towns just don't have the resources to do so. And by being able to provide this regional perspective to them, by being able to set regional goals and strategies and help them implement those strategies, we get to apply that same level of investment into roadway safety and Vision Zero as some of the biggest cities do. One of the, by being able to take planners from across land use, environmental planning, and transportation planning and put them together, we can look at all of the different items that go into these roadway fatalities and start to make longer term plans and decisions to address those, as well as helping the town staff make those decisions on their own. So you'll see here on the screen, one of the regional goals that we've set is a VMT reduction target. The Department of Transportation was required to set a target for VMT reduction, and they did so for the year 2030. Following that, we went in and really highlighted the strategies that our region can take to help support that statewide target and endorse that statewide goal. And if you'll move to the next slide. We also have looked at this from active transportation and environmental planning, the Naugatuck River Greenway being the spine of our regional active transportation network. Our staff is able to offer the technical assistance to the Naugatuck River Greenway Steering Committee as they prioritize the projects that need to be built to help provide that safe and alternative travel option. We've also done quite a bit of urban trail planning. And so you'll see here the cover for our Pequavic River Trail study in Bristol. This is designed to be an off-road or next-to-road trail option for travelers in downtown Bristol between Rockwell Park and truly the city center. To provide that safe alternative to help achieve all of our targets, including that VMT reduction, active transportation, and mode shift, and most importantly, to keep those travelers safe as they do so. And you'll see on the right, we put together an accessibility resource guide for our towns as they look to advance ADA compliance and make their towns accessible for everyone. The other element of this too is that we're able to help our towns collaborate outside of just the region. We've been able to bring in statewide partners, including Watch from ECT and others like them, to help address some of the issues that we know are specific in our towns. And so that has been that extra level of collaboration has been really helpful, especially in some of our bigger towns and cities. And the next slide. Another element we've taken on is roadway safety audits. And so again, we know the Department of Transportation has a roadway safety audit program that we have used many times and will continue to do so. But we've taken some of this work in-house as well, which allows us to influence really what those concepts look like, how the towns and cities are able to then implement based on that, as well as to bring in a degree of public engagement and involvement that we know will lead to a strong final product. In doing these roadway safety audits, we're able to take the information that we learn from our target setting and our reporting, apply it to a specific corridor that we know is among those that are most likely to yield some kind of a serious injury or fatality, and look out at what we can do to address that in both the short and the long term. In addition to just looking though at the roadways, we're able to take in surrounding land use, we're able to take in any of the natural hazards. And as we do our concept development, we can look at all of the above. So you'll see here the title page for our Thomaston Avenue roadway safety audit here in Waterbury. And if you'll go to the next slide, you'll see one of the concepts that came out of this. We're able to take a pretty innovative approach on some of these. We're given that we have the little bit of extra time and the extra staff capacity to look at these things compared to what a town may be able to do on their own, or certainly what our towns are able to do on their own. We can take some of the best practices, not only from across the state or across the country, but truly from across the globe, and apply them in practice to these concepts as we develop them. So what you're looking at here is the intersection of Thomaston Avenue, Huntington Avenue, and Homer Street in Waterbury. This is an intersection that does not work very well. It does not address pedestrian safety well, and has a number of transit stops and not only functional but truly safety issues that we're able to address by looking at this turbo roundabout concept. So just as an example, right, it gives us the ability to think a little bit more outside of the box on what these solutions might look like. And in the process, get our towns excited about some of the ideas that they may not see every day or may not work with every day. And the next slide, please. And that brings us kind of to the last item here, which is that we are an open forum. This has always been true of the councils of governments. I know certainly not just here in the Naugatuck Valley, but across the state, the COGs serve as an open forum between towns and cities to share best practices. And this is true not only of elected officials, although we know our chief elected officials love to share their problems and ask for assistance on what they're dealing with in their towns. But this is true across our transportation technical advisory committees and our land use technical advisory committees. We're able to bring in police departments and emergency services and boards of ed and have all of these parties collaborate together on sharing some of their best practices. And, knowing that Vision Zero, that achieving zero fatalities or serious injuries is not a single discipline's responsibility, but requires the input of everyone working together, right? Being this open forum, having the ability to do this has allowed us to share some really innovative ideas. And many of these technical assistance items have come out of this. We published a complete streets guidebook just about a year ago now that was the result of a question asked at our Transportation Technical Advisory Committee, where one of our public works directors was unclear about the best way to go about a speed hump program in their town. And so rather than just giving them an answer about when to install a speed hump, it was the opportunity for us to look at all kinds of traffic calming elements and all kinds of complete streets elements, put them together into a resource that is designed for towns and cities to use to make those decisions without just considering the very first or most common request. And so, Aaron, if you'll go on to the last slide, that's what we're doing here in the Naugatuck Valley to advance our goal of Vision Zero. We're incredibly appreciative for the state and the work that this committee is doing to advance policies and projects across the state to advance this work. And I am happy to answer any questions And if anybody would like to see any of these resources that I had shared on the screen, they're all on our nvcogct.gov website, or you can reach out to me after. I'm happy to send anything along.
Rich, thank you so much. It's really exciting to hear about what you guys are doing. And, you know, we all know that we live in a relatively small state that's broken up into 169 different towns that often like to do things differently. And this regional approach of trying to help to have some consistency and best practices amongst those communities is really important. With most system users are traveling between multiple towns on a daily basis, and this ability to really bring, my hat is off to you being able to get 19 CEOs to agree on anything. So it's really not a small feat, and it's exciting to hear about. So does anybody else have any comments or questions for Rich? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you again, Rich.
Thank
I'm
you.
now going to turn it back over to Aaron. Aaron and I met with the commissioner last week, as well as the chairs of the subcommittees, and they gave us some updates, and Aaron is going to share those now.
I am. Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. So, like we said here, at the March meeting of the Vision Zero Council, the subcommittee co-chairs received some guidance from Council Chair Commissioner Euclid, as well as other council members. And, the approach so far for the subcommittee work has been to make policy recommendations that kind of pass through the council to the legislature. And obviously, that process has been immensely successful in terms of the passage of Public Act 23-116, otherwise known as the Vision Zero Law. Those recommendations were actually, taken and made into law that's being implemented right now. Some of the things that went through that didn't pass in that session or the following session, they've been recommended over and over again. And I think the approach that the council wanted to take from the subcommittee process was, recommendations are still welcome and should be made, but rather than just kind of recommend the same things over and over again, say like 0.05 or open container, the idea was that subcommittees could go back and really look at the implementation of Public Act 23-116 and some other related safety laws, that how are they working? So the Council Chair Euclid and the subcommittee chairs got together, like Deputy Commissioner King just said, and kind of talked that through and figured out what would that look like? What does each subcommittee kind of want to look at, so there's no overlap in effort and there's no duplication of effort, make the best use of everyone's time. We all know that the subcommittee chairs and their participants work strictly on a volunteer basis. So we want to make sure, I think the council wants to make sure that they're using their time in a way that's productive for themselves and the council to try to increase safety. So at that meeting, they talked about areas of focus to look at the implementation, like we said, of current laws. And the enforcement subcommittee ultimately will go back and look at automated traffic safety enforcement devices, kind of the implementation and review. We know that a few of those plans are approved. Some more of those plans are under consideration right now. I think there's 3 that are approved and another 8 or 9 that are currently under review. One of the things that had come up for one of the council chairs is they had heard some concerns about school zone designations and how that works. So, that's a conversation that was taking place between the enforcement subcommittee and OSTA DOT, and that's something that they're going to look at. Another area of focus for the enforcement subcommittee is going to be slow down and move over policy reviews for highway workers and emergency personnel. We heard a little bit about that today. There are increased penalties and violations for folks who don't slow down or move over for emergency personnel and highway workers. We know that those penalties exist. Those violations are given, but they're not necessarily given at a rate that reflects what's happening on our roadways. And that's something that the enforcement subcommittee is going to review, as well as just a general review of citations and infractions, their dispositions and outcomes. The engineering subcommittee is going to look at complete streets policies and implementation of them as part of projects. They're going to review policy implementation and have a continued focus on vulnerable road users. And they're also going to look at center line rumble strip policies and review the implementation and review crash data for lane departure and head-on crashes. The education subcommittee is going to take a continued look at the Vision Zero Schools of Distinction program. They're also going to review, like we heard about, there's a new work zone safety course as part of recently passed legislation. They're going to review some programs in other states and what implementation of that program might look like going forward. And they're also going to review the safety video that's required by DMV at license renewal. There were some changes to that legislation, or there were some changes to that policy as well through recent legislation this past session. That video used to be required to be viewed every other license renewal, but because license renewals occur every 8 years, that'd be potentially 16 years that you could go without reviewing safety policies as part of that video. That's now changed to every license renewal. They're also going to review who's watching that video, the review of the demographics, reach, impressions, who's seeing it, where are they seeing it. And they're also going to look at trying to implement the video as a mandatory requirement for both online and in-person license renewal. So they have some things that they want to look at with the video in the education subcommittee. And finally, the equity subcommittee, and we have another word there for equity, and we'll introduce that in a second, but they're going to look at safety courses for violators as an outcome for enforcement actions and infractions. They're going to look, we heard a little bit about ISA and the requirement for the council and the chief state's attorney's office to study ISA and, its potential effectiveness on changing driver behaviors. But, we know from IIDs, ignition interlock devices, that there can sometimes be some potential hardships in terms of cost. And that's something that they wanted to look at with regard to intelligent speed assistance, what impacts could be there. Also something that's happened in terms of the change of administrations, some links to useful information that was formerly housed on agency websites are broken or aren't there anymore. And one of the things they were hoping to do is go back and kind of try to find some of that information, be able to make it easily findable and public again. And with that, like I said, we have a new acronym next to equity here. And I know our equity subcommittee co-chairs are here. So Alec or Katie, if you want to talk about that quickly, please go ahead.
Thanks, Aaron. So we discussed as a committee the revised name and came up with this acronym RISE, which stands for Resources and Innovation for Safety for Everyone. So we felt that encompasses the purpose and the work that we have been doing and will continue to do, and has the overlap to provide the resources in an innovative way that span across all the other committees to help with those links that were broken, really good resources that had been lost. So we're really excited to roll out that new name and continue our good work.
Thank you, Katie. The subcommittees, again, like we said, I'll repeat it over and over again, but these are folks working on a volunteer basis to try to do what they can to increase safety and reduce fatalities and serious injuries. And the work that they do as part of this subcommittee process for the council is really appreciated. They have these new areas of focus that they're going to look at. The guidance at that meeting from Commissioner Euclid was that they should reconvene at least once prior to the September meeting of the council, and then report out on progress there, hear some more guidance and feedback, and finalize their reviews and report out on those findings for the December meeting. So over the course of the next few months, the subcommittees now have their charge for what they'll be doing for the rest of the year.
Great.
Yep.
Does anyone have any questions or comments about the work of the subcommittees? Okay, seeing none. Aaron, I'll turn it back over to you to talk about what we have coming up next.
Sure. So as always, towards the end of these meetings, if there's any meeting topics that council members, subcommittee chairs, or attendees would be interested in hearing about, please send them to me. You can reach out to me directly or through the Vision Zero website or through the Vision Zero email. Always looking for topics for future meetings that would be of interest to folks. We do have our dates for our upcoming meetings in September and December. Something that's not listed here, the Vision Zero Schools of Distinction program is ongoing. I'm set to meet with the Safe Routes to Schools coordinator soon to start working to get an event set up later this year to honor any potential schools or districts that are awarded with that distinction. Right now, I believe we have 2 applications in for that program. And I would remind folks here today that that deadline has been extended through July 15th. So there's still time if you have a school or a district or someone who wants to be a part of that program, there is still time to submit an application. It does go through July 15. It's a great program. We had a good event last year, and we're going to try to kind of recreate that again this year. And I think, you know, we had some good momentum rolling with that program. We had some changes in personnel, and you know, we're back again working with that program, and it's something that I'd like, you know, the council and everyone who works with that would like to see continue to build on that momentum. So with that, I'm going to move forward to public comment unless there's any other questions or comments from the council before I see a hand up.
Hi, this is Nancy. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Thursday is December 11th. I just want to point that out so there's no confusion.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Yep, we'll make that change, and we'll make that change on our website too. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Aaron, let's move on to public comment.
Yep. Okay. So just as a reminder, if you have a comment you want to make, please raise your hand to be called upon or enter your question into the Q&A field, and we'll continue to prioritize in-person questions over the Q&A field. Let's see if we have any hands up. Not seeing any hands up or questions. We'll just give it another minute before we move on. See a hand up, but Aaron, good. You should be able to speak.
Hi, thanks very much. Aaron Good from New Haven. I've been working recently with the West River Watershed Coalition here in New Haven on a series of community design and community-led walk audits, kind of along the lines of what Rich Donovan was discussing, but these are around the perimeter of West River Memorial Park, which is a New Haven municipally owned park that's located mostly in West Haven, but which is literally surrounded on all sides by state roads, state highways, including 2 of the most dangerous in the state that account for 40% of all pedestrian fatalities in New Haven over the last decade. So these state roads severely hinder access to the natural and recreational resources in the park. We've been successful in gathering together many partners in these walk audits, including the National Park Service, which is providing technical assistance, New Haven and West Haven city officials, South Central Regional COG. Unfortunately, nobody from DOT has participated, which is too bad for many reasons. But the next walk audit we're doing is Sunday, June 29th. And I know the coalition would appreciate any level of input, participation, acknowledgement from DOT, because none of the things that we're trying to accomplish are possible without the partnership of DOT. Just one other thing. We're having an issue right now in New Haven. with our local traffic authority, which is the police commission, blocking a one-way to two-way street conversion on Chapel Street that has been planned and studied for many years. And in their defense, the traffic authority have some legitimate concerns with this conversion plan, and I'm sure it will be resolved amicably in the end. But I think it highlights some of the problems with this kind of weird structure of police commissions pretending to be transportation engineers and traffic experts that, as far as I can tell, no other state uses, and that the DOT has opposed reforming for reasons that I don't entirely understand. So as somebody who studies political science, it's interesting. As somebody who wants good public policy, it's not so interesting. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. If you could just make sure to, if you would forward me the information about your walk audit, at the end of June, we can see if we can get somebody there. Okay, do we have any other questions or comments?
Not that I'm seeing.
Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thanks, Jim. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everyone.